We're back as we always are, talking to people who are doing cool things. They have cool stories. And today on The Pulse, multiple TV shows, movies, Emmy nominations, occasional controversy, books, right? You've written a book. Sarah Silverman joins us. How are you?
Hi, I'm Will. How are you?
I'm good. When I said occasional controversy, even you went, yeah.
You know, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it happens, right? If they're not talking about you, that's a problem.
Right.
Take us back. How'd you get into this? Get started with the whole career? Let's go way back.
Well, I'll go really far back because I was one of those 3-year-olds who had a dad who thought it was hilarious to teach his toddler swears. And when I would say them, in the middle of the supermarket, I would get this wild approval from grown-ups, like despite themselves. And I think I became addicted to shock value, I think, and I loved being funny. I loved making people laugh. It made it made like my arms itch with glee. And so I always wanted to be a comedian. I mean, really since I was little. Moved to New York when I was 18 and started working at a comedy club, passing out flyers. Did that 10 hours a day for 2 years. And it got me some stage time, and I just went from there, on and on and on, little triumphs.
Now, as you kind of went along that path, big successes also. And you Google you hear a lot of your stories. We'll get to that because there's a whole rabbit hole when you Google you to do research.
Yeah, boy.
but at some point you end up on Saturday Night Live.
I moved to New York to go to NYU from New Hampshire, where I grew up. And I was a drama student, and it was real expensive. And I was passing out flyers for a comedy club from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. and trying to stay awake during classes. And my dad actually said, if you drop out of school, I'll pay your rent, like as if it's your sophomore, junior, senior year for the next 3 years.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And I still stole some classes because it's not like they take attendance or giant lectures and stuff. And I didn't need a degree. I just wanted information and to learn stuff. And by the time I would have graduated, by the time I was 22, I was writing for Saturday Night Live and a feature performer, which is very impressive. But I got fired after a year, if that's any consolation.
You got fired in a year from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But everything that I've read, you credit that with making you tougher? Like, it wasn't a huge defeat for you.
It was a huge defeat for me, but overcoming it, it's like a broken bone. It heals stronger, I mean, I had like a cluster of firings, like Saturday Night Live. I got fired from like a sitcom I was hired for. And then I got like a real complex about it. Like I would like make sure I still had the job before I'd go in the morning and stuff because I was like used to getting fired. But somehow I outgrew that and ended up keeping jobs. There's a moment when you're fired from Saturday Night Live where you're like, am I still in show business? So, I had to go back to the basics. I went back to stand-up, which is always my constant.
You got tougher from Saturday Night Live. Were you always this person? Like, I've seen a lot of your stand-up going back, but you're very comfortable now taking on the tough and the tough topics. And, over the years, I've seen some of the things people were like, has that always been you?
I think, no, I've changed a lot over time. I mean, hopefully we all do. And, as the world changes around me, as I grow and change, get older, or, learn more about myself and others in the world, my comedy changes. I mean, I think it's crazy when it doesn't, when you just like stick with one thing. And I get it though, I mean, comics who maybe get famous from their first special or their first whatever, And it's very scary to move on from that persona or that vibe or that kind of comedy. And but if you don't, I feel like you become a caricature of yourself, and it's a missed opportunity. You just have to stick with what you find funny now, you know. And I still find a lot of the same stuff funny because I'm basically a 10-year-old. But my world, and you know, it's like when you change your perspective even just 1 degree, the whole world looks different, you know. So your comedy should reflect that, I think. I always think of Chris Rock because, you know, I would watch him and he would, you know, do a special and be just so genius and then just go back to zero. You know, a lot of comics still stick with like the comedy that works and the jokes that work and repeat themselves a lot. And of course, like I hone stuff over a long time, but once you record it, it's just you gotta kiss it goodbye and be willing to bomb.
And you have much more to lose. Like once you get to that level of success that you're talking about, like it's easy fumbling through stuff when you're like, I'm just trying to learn. Once you've achieved that level of success, and people are like, that's not what I expected.
I just think it's important to just keep moving, trying new stuff. And so, you know, like my boyfriend is also a comic and he'll see me bomb, you know, sometimes. And he, you know, I shake it off and he's like, God, you're so good at that. You're so good at like it not ruining, you know, your week.
That's a fly on the wall conversation when your boyfriend is like, yo, you were awful, but you're good at shaking it off. Like, congrats.
But it's true. You have to risk bombing and doing bad and or going over the line or not going far enough or missing, not, you know, I mean, it's a lot of trial and error and you have to be able to be willing to go back and do that again, you know, but in Philly, I'll be very well honed, I promise.
We are sure. We have no doubts at all. Next on The Pulse, it's crazy to think about it, but when's the last time you heard a comedian just say, I'm sorry?
I find it's just so curious what you think you lose from being sorry about something. For me, it's so freeing. It really doesn't have to be so scary.
I was just watching video of you hosting The Daily Show. And this collage of conservatives, how you kind of introduced yourself. Here's what they think of me. And it was funny and it was hilarious. But the part that I was thinking about and wanted to ask you was, you're now there. Like you have that intense emotional response from all really. Some love, some are like, I really wish you would go somewhere and shut up. Is that hard when you're on that type of radar, when those type of people are swinging at you?
I really have learned not to take it on, you know. I mean, the good and the bad you have to like really work on, I think, as a grown-up adult, to not have your self-worth be impacted positively or negatively by outside forces, you know. Okay. I don't know them, they don't know me, you know, but also I'm not everybody's cup of tea and I'm very comfortable with that.
In Philly, yes. May 4th, you're on tour going a lot of places. So our national audience who's not in Philly can see you other places as you continue on tour, but you're at the Met May 4th. What are we gonna see on the Grow Some Lips tour? Yeah. Okay, what are we gonna see?
Boy, you'll just be in for it. It's silly, you know, vaguely, certainly maybe socially political comedy, but also aggressively dumb, which is my favorite.
When I saw your podcast, I went, she takes calls? Like people are like that. That's a whole different phenomenon. Like, do you enjoy that? Like you're just going at it, hearing people's stories, that whole interaction.
I love it. I love it. You know, I knew I didn't want celebrity guests. You know, I didn't want to have a podcast like that, only because the thought of asking people to do my podcast is my biggest fear. Like that's why I never did a podcast. But I really wanted to do something where people could call in, and I can't believe, this is how, I don't know, xenophobic I secretly am maybe or something, but like, I didn't even realize it would be international. Like, the diversity of calls is so exciting to me, people calling from Lebanon, or Australia, England, Israel, Iran. I tell them, listen, I'm talking out of my butt here, but I think, but I'm very interested in that stuff. And just, my hero is Mr. Rogers, and, and he, believe that people are supposed to help each other, especially older people helping younger people at different stages of life. And I like that stuff.
One of the things that I saw on the podcast that I guess kind of resonated with me was people who were like, I remember when you said 15 years ago, or I care about your opinion on so-and-so. Like, from my perspective, I feel like that's the stuff that would have more of an impact on me. Like, that's people who are taking the time to express that they care and they heard you.
I'm just a schmo on the, on the internet or wherever you see me, or, I'm just a person, but I feel like I can model what it can look like to be accountable for stuff, or to, that's not why I did it. I did it just earnestly, but like, or be sorry for things. I don't believe in apologizing if you're not sorry, but I believe in apologizing if you're sorry. And I see such a very deep fear around being sorry in adults, grown-ups, and people I know, people I love, figures in the world. And I find it's just so curious what you think you lose from being sorry about something, or taking accountability about something. For me, it's so freeing. It just is. I forgive myself, and you can forgive me or not, or, you know what I mean? It really doesn't have to be so scary.
I have a list of notes and things that I took and researched, and this is my little paper. And so one of the things that I have written on these notes things that I want to remember to talk to you about. And I said, she's been involved in controversy, and I have, and apologizes. That's unusual for a lot of people. Like, I have that written down on the notes because I saw you kind of going back, and it goes back years, and, Britney Spears comedy and things like that you stepped back and apologized for. I don't know why that's unusual, but it is.
It's funny because, I have comedian friends who are like, I'm so mad you apologized for that. And I'm like, you can still enjoy the comedy that it was if you want to, but I feel sorry about it. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Listen, I still go hard at things. I'm finding the line and sometimes go over it. But I know that I can apologize, it's not, I'm not taking it in vain. I'm not being casual about it, only in that I'm not afraid to do it if something comes up and I'm sorry. It's so odd to me, that you wrote that's unusual. It's so unusual to me. It's so odd to me that that's unusual. Like, we could live in a society where we can be fairly loose with that, not if you don't mean it.
Right.
That's why I don't understand when people are made to apologize for things. Like, what is the point of that?
Right. I said what I said. If you don't believe
I have to apologize. Sorry.
Right.
It's like, no one should be made to apologize because a forced apology means nothing.
Right. The very carefully worded, if you were
that
offended,
your publicist wrote,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you took it that, that's not an apology.
Right. It really says in the prompter, like, read this.
Right,
and you
exactly.
go ahead and go through it. And I absolutely agree with you. And I wrote it's unusual because I feel like it is, but I don't think that it should be. Like, it's simple. It's not easy stuff.
That's exactly right. It's not easy. It's really hard for people. But the answer always may not be easy, but it's always simple.
Now you have...
Come to my comedy show. What is happening?
Coming up, she was on a commercial joking about selling feet pics.
And I don't want to go back to selling pictures of my feet.
And now on Google...
Yeah, it's always interesting, like when you write it and you see what fills in.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. But the feet thing is real.
You have, over the last 8 years, gotten deeper into politics, political statements, comedy and otherwise.
I think we're supposed to take care of each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I have a bag of skills, and I can use them to help sometimes, or from other people's perspective, hurt. You know, I don't know, it depends, you know, but, you know, and sometimes it's offensive to people, and sometimes, you know, I made a video like, sell the Vatican, feed the world, you know, and some people loved it, some people hated it.
Right. I
like that, you know, but it's funny, those same people that hated it, now we have this new Pope, not so new now, but, you know, the people that say, like, the Pope, what the Pope says goes, and now we have this kind of liberal Pope where they're like, well, not this Pope.
I said when I started, Googling you and doing research for you can send you down all kinds of rabbit holes. So it goes all the way back to you being in Maxim magazines and people talking about how hot you are in Maxim. And then following that thread leads to Sarah Silverman feet, and then a commercial that you did.
Find out at bignaturaltoes.net. Holy crap, you actually typed in bignaturaltoes.net?
Yeah, it's always interesting, like when you write it and you see what fills in.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. But the feet thing is real. Like, a lot of women in show business, if you type their name, like, the word feet comes up. That's how many foot people there are.
Coming up next, a Use Your Voice for Good first on The Pulse. You were the first person who needed more time to talk about all the ways to use their voice for good. I think that is a great thing. The whole concept of The Pulse and talking to people, and the reason I love the long form discussion is that the theme is use your voice for good. Platform is yours.
Well, I would say if you are for a woman's right to choose, or a person with a uterus's right to choose, check out Abortion Action Front, run by Liz Winstead, because wherever you are in the country, there are ways that you can get involved, and she'll help you. She'll direct you to somewhere where you can see how you can get involved locally. I love Second Nurture, which is a foundation that helps with fostering and adoption and finding forever homes for people. And also, you know, there are vulnerable people who get their kids taken away because they don't have a refrigerator. Well, this group will get you a refrigerator. And Razia's Ray of Hope, boy, it's a school for girls in Afghanistan. And it's really thriving despite the power that bees wishes that women were not educated there. And I love giving to them. There's a few.
I love the fact that we ask that question, and sometimes people have answers, sometimes there's depth to them, sometimes there's not. You were the first person who needed more time to talk about all the ways to use their voice for good. I think that is a great thing. So we appreciate that.
Thanks, Bill.
Guys, thanks so much for watching The Pulse today with Sarah Silverman. You often find out that people are different than you see in their comedy routine. There's more depth, there's more compassion, and I enjoyed that with her. Hope you did as well. You can hear the entire interview, all places where podcasts are available. Just hit subscribe, and I leave you, as I always do, reminding you that whenever you can, use your voice for good, and have a good one.